Okay, you hear it everywhere, right? This whole loneliness epidemic. They say 1 in 4 people feels totally isolated. But that's not really your story, is it? Nope. You're the one who chose to cut people off. You saw their name pop up on your phone and just thought, not today. And in doing that, you stumbled onto something nobody ever really talks about.
You don't actually feel lonely. You don't feel broken or wrong. In fact, if you're being honest, you've probably never felt more at peace. That quiet in your life, it isn't empty. It's full. It's full of calm. So what in the world is going on here? I mean, when the whole world is screaming about a crisis of disconnection and you're over here finding relief in it, it's pretty easy to feel like maybe you're the problem. But what if you're not? We're about to break down the actual psychology of why you cut people off and why it might just be the healthiest thing you've ever done. To really get why you chose peace, we have to rewind the tape a little bit. We have to look at the person you used to be. You know, the one who lived in all the noise. Does any of this sound familiar? Yeah, you were the go-to, the reliable one, the person people called in the middle of the night when their world was imploding because they absolutely knew you would always pick up. You were an emotional sponge, just soaking up their problems, fixing their fights, and carrying all their chaos. And then, it just happened. One day, you just couldn't. Maybe you were too exhausted. Maybe you just hit a wall. You saw the call and you let it ring. And guess what? The world didn't end. But your world? Oh, it got quiet. That single moment wasn't a failure. It was a turning point. And what you might not realize is that your own brain was hitting a protective switch it was designed with all along. See, that wave of peace you felt? That wasn't just some random emotion. That was biology kicking in. It was your nervous system activating a deep, ancient, protective instinct. Let's get into the science of it. To really wrap our heads around this, we can look at Dr. Stephen Porges' work on what's called Polyvagal Theory. It's a game changer. It basically shows that our nervous system has more tricks up its sleeve than just fight or flight. There's this third, super important mode, and it's designed specifically for survival through, well, conservation. So think of it like this. You start out in social engagement mode, right? You're open, you're connected, you're there for people. But after being that emotional sponge one too many times, you hit overwhelm. And that's when your brain can literally flip a switch into something called the dorsal vagal response. It's like a biological shutdown. Your body is basically saying, nope, this is too much. We're powering down all non-essential systems to protect ourselves. It's not a flaw, it's a feature. But that raises a question, doesn't it? Why is your system so quick to see other people as a threat to your energy in the first place? Well, for a lot of us, that programming started a long, long time ago. A psychologist named Murray Bowen had a term for this: emotional cutoff. It's a pattern that gets wired in when we're kids. You know, maybe you had to learn how to read the room before you could even read a book because you knew a parent's mood could turn your whole world upside down in a second. You learned, deep down, that getting close to people was risky business. So let's be super clear about this. This isn't some character flaw you have. It is a highly sophisticated survival blueprint that a younger version of you drew just to feel safe. And now, as an adult, that same blueprint just activates whenever someone's behavior starts to feel a little too familiar to that old chaos. Okay, but here's where it gets a little tricky, because there is a real danger in total isolation. So how do we tell the difference between protecting yourself and just building walls that keep absolutely everyone out, good or bad? And let's not ignore the data here. The CDC is very clear. Long-term, genuine social isolation has serious physical consequences. We're talking about a significantly higher risk of heart disease and stroke. This isn't just about feelings, it's about your physical health. But, and this is a huge but, here's what those studies don't always capture. Being constantly surrounded by people who drain you, criticize you, or disrespect you, that chronic stress can be just as, if not more, damaging to your health. It's like a slow poison. So what's the real difference? Well, think of it this way. Walls are built from fear. They're clumsy and they block everyone out, no exceptions. Boundaries, on the other hand, are built from self-awareness. They're intelligent, they're selective. Walls lead to that painful isolation the CDC warns us about. Boundaries lead to peace. And I really want you to let this next part sink in. If you cut someone out of your life, and what you felt afterward was a profound sense of relief, a deep, quiet calm, that feeling is data. It's your nervous system telling you that what you did wasn't an act of isolation, it was an act of protection. So let's just reframe this whole thing. Society might slap a label like isolation on it, but what if it's something else entirely? What if what you've created for yourself is a sanctuary?
You know, there's something fascinating about people who are quick to cut others off. They've often developed a kind of superpower, incredibly advanced pattern recognition. You see it coming a mile away, don't you? Science actually backs this up. Studies show that people who dealt with early stress often have heightened activity in their brain's threat detection centers. You're not paranoid, you're just processing social data on a whole other level. And this, right here, is the absolute key difference. Loneliness is a painful absence. It's wanting connection and not having it. Solitude is a peaceful presence. It is the presence of yourself, the presence of calm, the peace that you chose over chaotic connections. You're not sitting by the phone wishing it would ring, you're just grateful for the silence. People who don't get it will say you're running away from people or from your problems. But you know the truth, don't you? This isn't an escape, this is a destination. You are actively, intentionally running toward peace, toward clarity, toward a version of yourself that simply cannot thrive in constant chaos.
So if you've been watching this and there's still a tiny voice in your head wondering if you're cold or heartless, I want you to hear this loud and clear. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are simply someone who learned, probably the hard way, that your energy is a finite, precious resource, and not everyone has earned the right to access it. Choosing to protect your peace is a profound strength. And if this felt like someone was finally putting words to your experience, you are so far from alone. If you got something out of this, do us a favor and like this, and maybe even subscribe for more explainers just like it.
And always remember this. In a world that is constantly demanding your attention, your time, and your energy, choosing to build a life that feels gentle and calm instead of loud and chaotic isn't weakness. It is one of the most quietly fierce and powerful things a person can do.